adorable bear! Well, this week on Men in the Den is Build-A-Bear week, and I'm going to be showing you how to make this cute little baby right here. So what you're going to need for this project is you're going to need some cardstock paper to make your pattern. You're going to need some felt of, different kinds of colors, or, you could just go with, black, brown, tan colors for, like, bears in the wild. You're going to need some stuffing, so it could be cotton balls or cotton like this, or you could get polyester fiber fill if you go to like a craft store. You're gonna need some embroidery thread if you're gonna do the embroidery of the face like I just did there. Some scissors. You're gonna need a marker like this to draw your pattern because felt sucks to write on, but Sharpie does the job. And for needles, you're gonna need a couple of sewing needles, or like one sewing needle if that's all you have, and an embroidery needle. Some cotton thread, some embroidery thread as I mentioned, and some straight pins to keep your bear together while you're working on it. First thing that you're gonna do is you are going to make your pattern for your bear. So just so that you see what this looks like, it's a really rudimentary shape. It doesn't have rounded edges. You don't need to have rounded edges. You can sew that in just the way that you stitch it together. The eyes are really super high up because you have a lot of interchangeable muzzles on the bear. So this is kind of the wide version of the face, and this is kind of the long version of the face. And those are usually done in like a contrasting color. You can also add a little belly to your bear if you want to add that. There's also like an oval version of the belly if you want to do that. And it's just like super simple. It's like you can mix and match it. There's also little heart designs and other cute little things, however you want to do. So to do your pattern, all you have to do is take the instructional paper that is linked in the crotch and just lay it down on your cardstock and just sketch around. It's like that easy. It's literally that easy. Boom. Now that you have your bear shape pattern, we're going to make that shape design on a piece of felt. Now the easiest way to do this is to flip the felt over so that it is cut basically in half. Just kind of like line up your edges. Now, most of these pieces of felt are not like perfectly symmetrical, so it's not super perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be like close enough because, you're just kind of winging it. So now that you've got your bear shape on your cloth, you just use your Sharpie to draw around. Zoom, 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 zoom. And, then you can do the same thing on the opposite side, and then you can open it up to cut out and shape out muzzle pieces and belly pieces from your full piece of fabric, and then you just cut all these pieces out. Super simple. Now that you have your bear pieces, the best thing to do is to take your little applique parts. These are the parts that you're going to add onto the front and do your embroidery for them. So using the black embroidery thread, you can make your shapes for the nose and mouth line. And actually, I'll show you on this one just so that you see what it looks like. The nose is like a satin stitch right here, and the mouth, the snout divide and the mouth are all just like chain stitches. So, I mean, these are like two of the easiest things to do when you're doing embroidery. It did take a little while because you're holding this small piece of fabric in your hands, because this won't fit in a hoop or anything. It's just tiny. But it's not that difficult to do. If you don't want to do all of this stitching, which, you might not want to do all of this stitching, you can cut out little nose-shaped pieces, and you can only stitch the mouth, and that actually makes it run a lot smoother. And you don't have to even do like full-on embroidery with chain stitching. You could just do like a simple stitch, boom, 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 using the embroidery thread going down the length of the face. Simple. So now that we have the nose done, you can unpin all these pieces. You take one side that's going to be whatever your front side is, preferably not the side that you drew on. So you flip it over, and then you just stitch the snout on with the regular fabric cotton thread that you are using to stitch the whole bear together. So I've been using this red thread. This is a quilting thread that I was using on a quilt. It doesn't have to be that high tension. It can just be a simple heavy-duty cotton thread folded over so that it's twice, so that it's 2 strands in the needle. And then you just stitch it on into place. Now, the one thing to remember when you're stitching on your snout is to have the stitches like kind of visible, but not too far apart from each other, because you don't want it to be loose on there, but you want it to have that kind of decorative edging. So about 1/8 of an inch in from the edge of the fabric is enough to give it a little bit of a texture and a contour, but also keep the whole shape in place on the body. This is also a good time to do your little embroidery eyes. And now these are just simple, like, you know, going over it a couple times. But then you'll have all of your front done. I mean, you can add your belly or whatever it is that you want to do. Put all of the things that you want onto the front of your bear before you start to piece it together, the whole body. Once you've placed and applied all of your muzzle, your belly, whatever pieces, a little heart over here, whatever you want to put on, then you take your whole piece, you turn it inside out, match it all up again, and then you'll put your pins into it so that it's all put together nicely, and then you will stitch all the way around. It's not that difficult to do, but again, you want to keep your stitches kind of close together so that it doesn't start to pull apart. Felt can be a little tricky, but you don't want to have, open seams. So keeping your stitches together, and it doesn't have to be like repeated stitches. It could just be a square stitch where you go into one side and over to the other and pulling it tight as you go along. And then that's a really easy stitch to do. It's not like you're going over it multiple times. It's just one long do all the way down the edge. So you'll stitch all the way around the edges from probably the leg is probably the best part, because the leg gives you a lot of room to work with. So you want to probably start about here in the base of the leg and go down and around the whole thing, except for this much of a length. You're going to need this much of a length to stuff your bear. You can't stuff it until you've gotten enough of it pieced together or stitched together that you can pop it inside out. So once you have most of your bear stitched together, except for your stuffing section, you're going to turn it inside out just like you would a glove. And then using like your Sharpie marker, making sure that all the lids and stuff are on, you're going to push into your little legs and arms and your little ears to kind of, push all of that out so that it gets all the curve and the texture of those extremities, okay? So now that you've pushed all of these pieces out, these are the first areas that you're gonna stuff. Now, I mentioned that in the beginning that you could just get cotton balls, but you don't wanna just have like cotton balls like this, like shoved into your bear. Otherwise it's gonna feel like super lumpy, right? You don't wanna have a lumpy bear. You wanna have a cuddly bear. So to make a cuddly bear, you take your cotton balls and you just kind of unwind them. So cotton balls, is, not too many people may know, are actually just like lines of strands of cotton that are kind of rolled up into the ball shape. So you just basically break apart your cotton ball so that it becomes more of a flat piece of stuff, and then you can just grab chunks of it off and use those to push down into your legs and arms. Now, the design that I made, the arms are a little stumpy because the fabric itself is not all that wide when you flip it from side to side. So you can't really tell, but this one, maybe you can tell. This one's a little understuffed, and it wasn't easy to push in there because the little arms are a little too short. But you can see that the legs are really full and rounded, which is kind of the design that you want to, or the the look that you want to have for the whole thing. So once you've gotten your legs and your arms and your ears and your other arm all filled in, then you start to shove the filling into the body. And when you have a big piece like this, it makes it a lot easier to kind of like shove it and layer it in, you know, going as you go across the whole piece of your bear. Once you've gotten it all stuffed and it feels like really full, and you can see how full this is, it's actually like really like a nice kind of oval shape, then you're going to want to stitch up the last seam on your bear. Now, I did my seam in a not smart way, where I did it from the arm up to the ear, and you can kind of see that here. I was trying to actually stitch it from the inside, which you can do. It's actually very doable using that same square stitch that I was talking about at the beginning. But instead, at the end, what I wound up doing was just doing an exterior seam, which makes it look a little cheesier, but I think it's also fine. I mean, we know that we have to stuff these bears somehow or another. It's just that this was the easier route to go. It's not clean looking, but maybe as I go along and making the other bears, I'll get better at doing the interior stitch scheme. So that's it. That's like all you have to do to make these little bears. Well, that's my video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up. The instructions to make this bear are in the crotch. There's a PDF that you can print out, cut out, and make your own pattern. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to our channel. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. And if you want to see more bears, including a Pokemon Snorlax, you can go to the rest of the videos during this week, during Build-A-Bear Week at Men of the Den. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next Friday. Cheers!